Hello, brothers, and welcome to Sigma Old Man channel. Some men chase women, some chase status. The Sigma male chases nothing because everything eventually comes to him. In a world where men are expected to be either dominant leaders or obedient followers, the Sigma male exists outside the system, bending to no one's expectations. He doesn't seek validation, he doesn't play social games, and most importantly, he doesn't care if you like him or not. And that's exactly why modern women have a love-hate relationship with him. Psychologists have found that unpredictability is one of the biggest triggers of emotional obsession. But here's the kicker. Sigma males aren't unpredictable because they're playing hard to get. They're just wired differently. 1 minute he's fully engaged in a deep conversation, making you feel like the only person in the world. The next he's disappeared into his own world, answering texts like a government informant in witness protection. For women who are used to men fawning over them, adjusting their personalities just to impress or begging for attention, the Sigma male is an unsolvable puzzle, fascinating yet frustrating, magnetic yet maddening, and that's why, despite their undeniable appeal, many modern women find them absolutely infuriating. So what exactly makes these enigmatic men so impossible to deal with? Buckle up, because we're about to dive into 10 brutally honest reasons modern women hate Sigma males. Number 1, he can't be rushed into commitment. A Sigma male sees commitment differently than most men. To him, it's not about proving love through labels or rushing into a relationship just because it's expected. He doesn't believe in forced timelines, emotional ultimatums, or the idea that commitment equals security. If anything, the more pressure he feels to commit, the more he questions whether the relationship is even worth it. It's not because he's afraid of love or incapable of deep connection. It's because he refuses to make a lifelong decision just to ease someone else's anxiety. Most men fold under relationship pressure. They see commitment as a way to keep the peace, to avoid arguments, or to meet society's expectations. But a Sigma male doesn't operate on fear or external pressure. He won't say yes to something just to make a woman happy, because to him, that's a form of self-betrayal. He knows the moment he commits before he's ready, the relationship is doomed. And if a woman tries to speed up his timeline with guilt, emotional tests, or strategic withdrawal, she's already lost. He doesn't respond to tactics. He responds to authenticity. This is where things get frustrating for modern women. They're used to men either chasing relentlessly or being easily reeled in with just the right mix of attraction and persuasion. But a Sigma male is different. He doesn't chase and he doesn't get reeled in. He chooses. And he takes his time making that choice because for him, commitment is a rare privilege, not a default expectation. If he doesn't feel it deeply, if he doesn't see long-term value, he won't fake it just to keep someone around. He'd rather be alone than trapped in something forced. Women who crave certainty in relationships struggle with this the most. They see his patience as hesitation, his caution as disinterest, and his need for space as rejection. But what they don't realize is that if he does choose to commit, it means more than any rushed relationship ever could. When a Sigma male commits, it's because he's fully in, not because he was pressured, guilted, or convinced. That's what makes him rare. And that's also what makes him infuriating for those who don't understand the way he moves. Number 2, he's unimpressed by boss babe energy. A Sigma male respects ambition. He admires intelligence. He has no issue with a woman who's successful, independent, or driven. What he doesn't have time for is someone who turns every interaction into a power struggle, as if relationships are a corporate battlefield where dominance has to be established. He doesn't care how many degrees she has, how much money she makes, or how many men she's rejected. If her entire personality is built around proving she doesn't need a man, he'll gladly grant her wish and move on. Some women wear their boss babe energy like armor, thinking it makes them more attractive, and in certain circles it does. There are plenty of men who feel intimidated by a woman's success and need to be convinced they're still valuable. But a Sigma male isn't one of them. He doesn't base his worth on out-earning a woman, and he doesn't need to be the alpha in the relationship to feel like a man. He simply wants peace. He wants authenticity. He wants a partner, not an opponent. If a woman's approach to dating feels like a constant game of one-upmanship, where she has to win every conversation, assert her dominance, or prove she's the most important person in the room, he disengages. The issue isn't that she's strong or independent. It's that she confuses aggression with confidence and competition with connection. She might think her high standards and no-nonsense attitude are making her more desirable, But to a Sigma, they just signal unnecessary conflict. He doesn't care how impressive she looks on paper if her energy feels exhausting in person. He values strength, but he also values emotional intelligence, grace, and the ability to connect without trying to overpower. For women who are used to men either worshipping their success or feeling threatened by it, a Sigma's reaction is frustrating. He's not bowing down, but he's also not intimidated. He's just unmoved. And that's the real issue. If success is her entire identity and the only thing she brings to the table, she won't understand why he's not impressed. But a Sigma male doesn't care about surface-level dominance. He's looking for depth, balance, and a woman who can match his energy, not fight him for control. Number 3, he's not ruled by lust or attention-seeking. A Sigma male doesn't walk around with hunger in his eyes, desperately trying to win female attention like a contestant in some invisible competition. He's not the guy blowing up a woman's phone, showering her with over-the-top compliments, or bending over backward just to prove he's interested. It's not that he lacks desire, it's that his desire doesn't control him. He sees attraction as a natural part of life, not a mission to complete or a trophy to win. And for women who are used to men falling at their feet, that's borderline offensive. There's an unspoken expectation in modern dating. If a woman is attractive, men should be lining up to validate her, compete for her attention, and make her feel like the ultimate prize. But a Sigma male doesn't play that game. He can admire beauty without losing himself in it. He might find a woman breathtaking, but he won't act like her presence is a rare privilege he needs to earn. That alone makes him a mystery. Why isn't he reacting like every other guy? Is he uninterested? Is he playing hard to get? No, he's simply not programmed to beg. This lack of neediness is both intriguing and frustrating. It forces a woman to question her own level of influence, making her wonder why he's not reacting the way she expects. And in some cases, it bruises egos. If a woman relies on male validation to feel attractive or worthy, the Sigma's indifference can feel like rejection, even when he's genuinely interested. But his interest is quiet, controlled, and never excessive. He doesn't believe in proving attraction through constant pursuit. If a connection is real, it will unfold naturally. If not, he moves on without regret. For women who equate desire with aggressive pursuit, this is hard to process. They're used to men showing love through chasing, praising, and constantly reassuring them of their beauty. But a Sigma male's attraction isn't about proving anything. It's about feeling something real. And if that makes a woman feel insulted, it's not his problem. Number 4. He doesn't fall for situationships or undefined relationships. A Sigma male has no patience for the emotional limbo that many modern relationships have turned into. He sees right through the game of keeping a man invested without actually offering commitment. If a woman expects him to stick around while she keeps her options open, breadcrumbing him with just enough attention to keep him hooked, she's in for a rude awakening. He doesn't play that game. The moment he senses that he's being strung along, he vanishes. No warnings, no confrontation, just gone. Some women enjoy the power of keeping a man in uncertainty, making him prove his worth over and over without ever giving him a clear answer. They like the attention, the reassurance, the ego boost of knowing someone is waiting for them to decide. Most men tolerate it, hoping that if they stay patient long enough, they'll be rewarded with exclusivity. But a Sigma, he'd rather chew glass than beg for commitment. He knows his value and he refuses to let anyone treat him like an option. This is where things get frustrating. A woman who thrives on keeping men in the gray area suddenly finds herself losing control. She expects him to stick around, to prove himself, to keep showing up even when she's being inconsistent. But he doesn't. He takes ambiguity as a sign of disinterest and simply moves on. And that's what makes him different. He doesn't wait for closure, he doesn't ask for explanations, and he doesn't try to decode mixed signals. If a woman can't be direct about what she wants, he assumes she doesn't want him. And that's all he needs to know. For women who are used to men tolerating this kind of uncertainty, a Sigma's reaction can feel almost insulting. Why isn't he chasing? Why isn't he trying harder? Because he doesn't have to. He knows that relationships should be built on mutual clarity and respect, not on one person dangling commitment like a prize to be earned. If she won't be clear about what she wants, he'll be clear about what he doesn't want, a situationship, and he'll remove himself from the equation without looking back. Number 5, he's not a provider in the traditional sense. A Sigma male doesn't see his success as a bargaining chip for romance. He works hard, builds his wealth, and secures his own future, not to impress anyone, but because independence matters to him. He refuses to be reduced to a financial safety net, and that alone is enough to frustrate women who expect men to prove their worth through spending. Some women have been conditioned to see a man's value in direct proportion to what he can provide: lavish gifts, extravagant dates, and the promise of a comfortable life. They aren't necessarily gold diggers, they just believe that financial provision is the ultimate proof of commitment. But a Sigma? He doesn't play by those rules. He has no issue paying for a date, but he's not trying to buy affection or compete with men who throw money around to gain favor. He sees relationships as partnerships, not transactions. If a woman expects him to open his wallet as a shortcut to emotional investment, she's in for a disappointment. This doesn't mean he's cheap or unwilling to provide. He takes care of what matters to him, and if he commits to someone, he'll make sure she's secure in every way. But the key difference? He does it because he chooses to, not because he feels obligated. He values independence in both himself and his partner, and he's drawn to women who bring more to the table than just expectations. If she only sees him as a means to financial security, he'll see right through it and lose interest instantly. Women who are used to men competing for their attention through wealth and status often struggle with Sigmas. He doesn't flex, he doesn't try to prove himself through material things, and he doesn't care if that makes him seem less impressive. He knows his worth, and it has nothing to do with his bank account. That mindset alone makes him a challenge for anyone who equates masculinity with financial provision. A Sigma male won't be pressured into playing provider just to fit a traditional mold. He's building his empire for himself, and if a woman wants a spot in his life, it won't be because she expects him to fund it. Number 6, he makes a woman question her own self-worth. A Sigma male doesn't hand out validation like free samples. He doesn't chase, he doesn't pedestalize, and he doesn't give attention just because a woman expects it. And for women who are used to being effortlessly admired, that's a problem. It forces them into unfamiliar territory where their usual methods of attraction don't work. Suddenly, the confidence they thought was unshakable starts to crack. Most men, whether they admit it or not, are eager to please. They'll shower a woman with compliments, laugh at jokes that aren't funny, and nod in agreement just to stay in her good graces. A Sigma male does none of that. He listens, observes, and evaluates, not in a judgmental way, but in a way that silently asks, what's beneath the surface? If all he sees is someone who thrives on external validation, he's unmoved. He respects women who are confident within themselves, not those who rely on attention to feel worthy. This is where the frustration sets in. A woman might start wondering, why isn't he reacting like other men? Am I not attractive enough? Am I not interesting enough? It's not that he's intentionally making her question herself. He's simply not handing out easy reassurance. He's immune to flattery, unimpressed by status, and indifferent to the games that work on most men, and that can be unsettling. For a woman who is truly secure, this isn't a problem. She won't need constant praise to feel valued, and she won't see his indifference as rejection. But for those who rely on external validation, a Sigma male can feel like an unsolvable mystery, someone who refuses to give them the emotional feedback they're used to receiving. Some will take it as a challenge and try even harder to win his attention. Others will grow frustrated and label him as cold, arrogant, or emotionally unavailable. But in reality, he's just being himself. A Sigma male's validation isn't something that can be fished for, manipulated, or demanded. It's something that's earned through genuine connection. And for those who aren't used to working for it, that can be a brutal wake-up call. Number 7, he sees through the performance. A Sigma male doesn't fall for the carefully curated act that some people put on in relationships. He sees through the exaggerated confidence, the forced smiles, and the strategic charm that's designed to impress. He's not fooled by the woman who acts like she's effortlessly independent, but secretly craves constant validation. He can tell when kindness is just a mask for manipulation, when flirtation is just a tool for control, and when someone is more focused on maintaining an image than actually being real. And the worst part? He doesn't even call it out. He just quietly loses interest. For a woman who's used to winning men over with surface-level appeal, this is unsettling. She might have perfected the art of social grace, learned all the right things to say, and figured out how to make men chase. But none of that works on a sigma. He's not entertained by rehearsed behavior, and he doesn't reward it with attention. Instead, he watches, he listens, he observes the tiny inconsistencies that give away the act, the moment when confidence turns into quiet insecurity, or when a charming compliment is really just bait for one in return, and once he sees it, he can't unsee it. This makes him intimidating to anyone who hides behind a persona. Around most men, a woman can control the narrative, carefully presenting only what she wants them to see. But with a sigma, there's nowhere to hide. His presence alone forces authenticity, not because he demands it, but because his energy makes anything fake feel obvious and awkward. It's like being on stage with a broken script. What worked before suddenly falls flat, and she's left exposed, unsure of how to maintain the illusion. Some women can handle this and drop the act, letting their real personality come through. But others feel deeply uncomfortable, realizing that their usual tactics don't work. Instead of adapting, they might label him as cold or arrogant, simply because he isn't playing along. But a sigma isn't cold, he's just uninterested in anything that isn't real. And if a woman's entire appeal is built on performance, she'll find herself slowly fading into the background while he looks for something deeper. Number 8, he forces women to be real or leave. A sigma male is like an emotional X-ray. He exposes whatever is underneath, whether someone is ready for it or not. Women who rely on personas, social masks, or carefully crafted performances quickly realize that none of it works on him. He doesn't reward fake confidence, scripted charm, or strategic vulnerability. If someone isn't being real, he picks up on it instantly, and instead of calling it out or trying to change them, he simply detaches. This is what makes him so difficult for certain women to handle. Most men either fall for the act or at least tolerate it in exchange for companionship. A sigma does neither. He doesn't just want authenticity, he requires it. And that creates pressure. A woman who has spent years curating a perfect image, using validation as a form of currency, or controlling relationships through emotional tactics, suddenly finds herself stripped of all her usual power. Around him, every forced smile, every manipulative word choice, and every carefully placed emotional test feels hollow and ineffective. She either drops the act or she realizes she can't keep up and leaves. The frustrating part? He's not trying to make anyone uncomfortable. He's not playing a psychological game or testing people just to see them squirm. He simply exists in a way that makes anything fake feel unnatural and exhausting. Women who are used to controlling men through charm or emotional leverage find themselves completely out of their depth with him. They expect him to react, to seek approval, to play along, but he doesn't. He just observes, silently making up his mind about whether this person is someone he actually respects. For the right kind of woman, this is refreshing. She doesn't have to perform, compete, or constantly worry about how she's being perceived. She can just be. But for those who thrive on manipulation, superficiality, or social games, being around a sigma is unbearable. He forces them to do the one thing they fear most, drop the act. And if they can't, they'll convince themselves that he's the problem, labeling him as distant, cold, or impossible to please. But the truth is simple. He's not asking for perfection. He's just demanding something that many aren't willing to give: realness. Number 9, his attention is hard to earn and even harder to keep. A sigma male is not like the typical guy who gets mesmerized by a pretty face and showers a woman with attention just because she exists. He operates on a different frequency, one where looks alone don't guarantee access to his mind, time, or energy. This is where things get frustrating for certain women, especially those who are used to effortless male admiration. With him, there's no automatic validation, no predictable pursuit, and no guaranteed attention just for being attractive. If there's no depth, no intelligence, no real substance, he mentally checks out without a second thought. This can be a massive ego blow for women who have built their entire sense of worth around their looks. They expect admiration, interest, and engagement simply because they're used to getting it from other men. But a sigma doesn't follow that script. He's not wired to fawn over someone just because she's conventionally beautiful. He needs more: intellectual stimulation, authenticity, and actual reason to care. If a woman can't hold a conversation beyond surface-level topics, if she thrives on drama, or if she's just coasting on her appearance, he disengages, not dramatically, not rudely, just gone. The real challenge? Even if a woman manages to capture his interest, keeping it is an entirely different battle. A sigma doesn't stick around out of obligation or convenience. If the dynamic starts feeling repetitive, shallow, or emotionally exhausting, he's out. He doesn't need attention to feel validated, and he definitely doesn't need to force connections that don't inspire him. This makes him unpredictable, which some women find thrilling and others find maddening. Many men are desperate to keep a woman's attention, constantly proving themselves to maintain her interest. A sigma? He flips the script. He's the one deciding whether she is worth his attention, and that reversal of power is unsettling for those who expect men to chase no matter what. With him, it's never about how pretty she is, it's about what she brings to the table beyond that. And if the answer is not much, then his attention, once impossible to get, becomes even more impossible to keep. Number 10. He's a black hole of mystery. Some women thrive on emotional transparency. They want a man who spills his thoughts, shares his every concern, and lets them into the deepest corners of his mind. With a sigma male, that never happens. He's a fortress, a locked vault, a black hole of mystery that swallows every attempt at emotional interrogation. The more someone tries to pull information out of him, the deeper he retreats. It's not a game, it's just who he is. This drives certain women absolutely insane. They're used to men who overshare, who seek emotional validation, who lay their thoughts bare in hopes of building a connection. But a sigma, he doesn't hand out pieces of himself like free samples at a grocery store. His emotions, his struggles, his ambitions, those are his to carry, not something he casually lays at someone else's feet. And the frustrating part, it's not that he can't open up, it's that he chooses not to unless he sees a rare, undeniable reason to. Some women see this as emotional unavailability, but that's not quite right. He feels things deeply, sometimes more than most, but he doesn't believe in broadcasting it to the world. He processes in silence, strategizes alone, and doesn't see the point in constant verbal reassurance. If he's dealing with something, chances are no one will ever know until he's already handled it. That kind of emotional self-sufficiency can be unsettling for women who are used to constant communication, who feel secure only when they're in the know. With a sigma, that security never comes. He'll give what's necessary, but the rest, locked away forever. What makes this even more frustrating is that his mystery isn't an act, it's his nature. Some men cultivate an air of secrecy to seem more attractive or interesting. A sigma isn't pretending. He genuinely operates in a way that makes people wonder what's going on in his head. And when a woman realizes that she'll never fully crack his code, that there will always be parts of him just out of reach, she either learns to accept the unknown or she walks away, exhausted from trying to decipher a man who was never meant to be deciphered. Number 11. He's more drawn to depth than beauty. A sigma male isn't the type to be hypnotized by a pretty face. Sure, he notices beauty, he's not blind, but it's never enough to hold his attention. He's wired differently. While other men might stumble over themselves for a gorgeous woman, regardless of her personality, a sigma is scanning for something deeper: intelligence, originality, and a sense of realness that most people don't have. If those qualities aren't there, he mentally checks out, no matter how stunning she is. This can be frustrating for women who've always relied on their looks to keep men invested. They're used to effortless attraction, where all they have to do is exist, and men will orbit them like planets around the sun. But a sigma, he's not in their gravitational pull. A woman might be drop-dead gorgeous, but if her conversations are shallow, her thoughts predictable, or her personality built on trends instead of authenticity, she becomes forgettable to him. He doesn't care how many likes she gets on social media or how many men fawn over her. If there's no depth, she might as well be invisible. This indifference throws certain women off balance. They're so used to being desired that they start questioning why this one man isn't falling in line. They might try harder, flirting more, dressing better, playing games to get his attention, but none of it works. That's because he's looking for something that can't be faked. He wants a mind that challenges him, ideas that make him think, and a presence that feels different. If a woman has that, she becomes unforgettable to him. If she doesn't, no amount of beauty can make up for it. What makes this even more frustrating? He won't tell her outright. He won't explain why he's losing interest or spell out what's missing. He'll simply drift away, leaving her wondering what went wrong. But the truth is simple. She was playing a game that works on most men, but a sigma isn't most men. Looks might open the door, but if there's nothing deeper inside, he's already walking back out. Sigma males don't fit into the usual mold, and that alone is enough to frustrate women who expect men to follow predictable patterns. He's not desperate for attention, he's not impressed by surface-level appeal, and he refuses to play by outdated relationship rules. He sees through facades, dodges manipulation like an expert, and moves in a way that keeps people guessing. To some women, that makes him a challenge. To others, an enigma they can't quite figure out. Either way, he's never just another guy. The truth is, a Sigma male doesn't exist to be easily understood or universally liked. He doesn't chase validation, and he sure as hell doesn't need approval to be comfortable in his own skin. He operates by his own code, one that values depth over charm, substance over theatrics, and genuine connection over social games. That's why he stands out. That's why he's unforgettable. And that's why, no matter how frustrating he may be, he's the kind of man who leaves a lasting impact, whether people love him, hate him, or simply can't stop thinking about him. If this breakdown of the enigmatic Sigma male got you thinking, then you're exactly the kind of person who belongs here. So don't just watch. Join the conversation. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on content that challenges the norm and keeps it real. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment below, and let's hear your thoughts. Love it? Hate it? Can't get enough of it? Let's talk. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, go ahead and share it with them. This channel is all about depth, truth, and breaking away from the ordinary. So stick around because we're just getting started.